And all we need is love. Yeah, ba-da-da-da. Good morning, everyone. It's so nice to be here with you. This is my first time with CSL Tucson, Arizona, where there's dry heat. Yeah. Let me just take a few seconds here just to anchor back in. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Again, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Sharon, thank you for reaching out to me to ask if I would like to do this. And of course, I love doing this. So you can always ask anytime. I will say yes. So as you know, the yearly theme for Centers for Spiritual Living is my favorite, living out loud. Living out loud. So I have a mentor who has passed on, and one of his sayings was living and loving to the max. So not only living out loud, but loving out loud as well. And so this month's theme is the light within the shadows. Oh, man, the light within the shadows. So how do we put this with living out loud? Because sometimes we can have these experiences where it seems to be dark, right? Where we are in the shadow of whatever it is. And so that can make it an interesting challenge to live out loud. Now, for me, my experience has been in the past where I was afraid to live out loud. I was just afraid to be in the light. So I would create, sometimes consciously, most of the time unconsciously, experiences that had me living in and from the shadow, right? And one of the things that I remember doing consciously is staying in the shadow, keeping my light turned down because I didn't want people to see me. I mean, even as recently as maybe 7 or 8 years ago, maybe a bit longer than that, I remember. Now, I've been writing the affirmations for the Science of Mind magazine since 2007. And from 2007 to 2012, I believe, 2011, my picture was not in the Science of Mind magazine. The publisher came to me, sent an email to me saying, Eugene, we need a headshot. He sent me an email. I got up from my desk and walked to his office and said, why do you need a headshot? I don't want people to see. They don't need to see me. But that was because I was afraid to be seen, right? I wanted to stay in the shadows. So here's the question, right? How can we live out loud when we're wanting to live in the shadow? There's really no way of doing that. And now we've also talked about it and learned and heard about, our shadow side, that part of us that we may not be so proud of, that part of us that may have us acting a little bit less than loving. I was going to say spiritual, but it's impossible not to be spiritual no matter what we're doing. No matter what we're doing, we could be telling somebody on the road that they're number one using a different finger. And even in that, we are still spiritual beings, right? Spiritual beings having a spiritual experience on the spiritual plane called Earth, right? So even in those shadow times where we may not be behaving as brilliantly as we could, we always know that we always want to remember that there is something within us that is wanting to shine, wanting to be birthed through us. What I love about those experiences from the shadow is I use those as an opportunity to remember to come out into the light. I don't know about you, but living in those and coming from that shadow side doesn't feel good. Doesn't feel good. In my affirmation from Science of Mind 1 back in the 1900s, 1999, I believe, the 1900s, right? Sheesh. But in the third week of SOM1, my affirmation was, because that was the week of affirmations, and it still is, I am the joy of God. I say that every single morning. I am the joy of God, or every single day. And when I'm in that, when I'm affirming that truth, because it is truth, and what's true is always true, then it's really difficult to get pulled back into that shadow, right? So there's when we are, that's what I love about this practice, about this philosophy, about this way of life, the science of mind and spirit, is that it gives us tools to remind us of who we are. Now, no matter what the experiences have been in the past, no matter how low we may have gotten, there is always something within the dark, within the darkness, that tends to wake us up, that tends to tap on the door of our heart, going, oh, my beloved, there's more. You don't need to do this. Oh, my beloved, just surrender. Open your eyes and see the light of your being. So when we start looking at and start tapping into the light within that shadow, when we're in those dark spaces, now we get to have this experience of the inner and the outer spectrums. The inner and outer spectrums, they're not separate. Just real fast about the darkness. Do you know that a seed needs the darkness of the soil to grow? And if it weren't for the darkness of the night, we couldn't see the stars. So the darkness is there. The stars in the sky are there to remind us that we are light. So sometimes I don't do this, very often at all anymore, and didn't know when I was doing it that I was doing it unconsciously, that I was creating experiences where I would be in the dark. And it was only Spirit's way of saying, dude, this is not the way to go. How does this feel? Are you feeling good being in this dark space? No, you're not. So start reading, start doing something to change, because each and every one of us are here to shine our light. The inner and outer spectrum, they're not separate. It's one thing. It's one thing. For example, we talk about duality, and I love the image of the yin yang, right? Because you have the masculine and the feminine, the yin and the yang, but they're all surrounded by the one circle. It's a unity. So the inner and outer spectrum is the same thing. Everything comes from the inner spectrum, that invisible realm, which is why silent meditation is a wonderful thing, because we go within. And whenever we go within, we can never go without. When we go within to tap into that power, to tap into that presence, then we can know that we are fully supported. So I have been, a lot of you know that I've been writing for the Science of Mind magazine for, since 2007, but that began because I was hired to work within the World Ministry of Prayer. So I had a 10-year career. What I like to say is my day job, my day gig surrounded prayer. I'm like, you guys pay me for this? This is great. And what people don't understand back then, when we would get, a practitioner can get probably 10 calls an hour, right, in prayer, right? And what people didn't know is that 70 to 75% of the people who called in for prayer didn't go to a center, didn't know what Science of Mind and Spirit was. So I asked the question, why do people call? Because they knew that affirmative prayer worked, right? So that prompted me to dive in. Why does this work the way that it does? And that had me then start to create a workshop on prayer. The first one was called Living the 5 Steps of Prayer back in 2016. That has since evolved into a 6-week course. And every time I do that class, Spirit keeps saying, hey, that was good, but there's more. And so I've revised that class over the years a few times. And this last time, now it's called The Scientific Art of Prayer. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this is because I realized over the last few months that one of the most difficult, challenging steps for people to really embody is step number 2. People can get that God is all there is. Spirit is all there is. The universal intelligence is all there is. Let's go to the 3rd step, right? And I realize, or as Ernest Holmes would say, I declare, right, that this is happening, and I declare this, that, and the other, and then we are grateful for it, and now I release my word. Step 2, though, step 2, we say it all the time, I am one with God. I am one with God. But when we really stop to think about it, and my invitation to you is this: do you really, really, really not only believe it, but do you really know that? Over this past few months in these classes and working with clients, I realized that step 2 is a challenge for people to really embody. And I do mean to embody that when you see me, you see the presence of the one that sent me. Yeshua Messiah was a great example of that. Jesus the Christ was a great example of, hey, this has nothing to do with me. It's all God. Why, one of the verses is, why do you call me good? There's only one that's good, right? So he's a great example of embodying that. So now what we are to do is to take that example and then to really walk in that. How do we do that? We take it to the inner spectrum first. Meditation, meditation, meditation. And there are all forms and all types. There's walking meditation. You can be in the garden and allow that to be a meditative practice. And I'm speaking about really sitting down and getting silent with no other agenda but to be with that spirit that is always within. I have no other agenda but just to be with God. And just to sit in that, because in that inner spectrum, that inner dynamic field is where we get to be still and know. It doesn't say be still and believe, be still and hope. It says to be still and know that I am God. Now I paused on that I am, because that's just one of the beautiful names of the universal intelligence. And we are told this in the book of Exodus when Moses is in front of the burning bush. And there really wasn't a bush burning. That's the Aramaic way of letting us know that he was coming to some greater awareness about himself, right? Going into that inner spectrum. So that divine intelligence, that indwelling spirit says to Moshe, go to Pharaoh, go to the children of Israel and tell them it's time to leave this place. Moses says, all right, well, from my point of view, Moses says, all right, Yahweh, cool, that's cool, but who do I tell them sent me? And the verse goes, Ahye Asher Ahye, and the translation is, I am that I am. The verse goes on to say this: tell them that this is my name, that I am is my name, and it is my name forever. Check this out, right? So whenever you and I say I am, we have just taken on the vibration of the divine. Let's take it a little further. Anything that we put after I am, we create. I am sick and tired. I am not worthy, or I am the joy of God. Right? So whenever we say I am, remember that we are putting on, we are really coming from that place of our spiritual essence, the I am that I am. So going back to step 2, really diving into and embodying and immersing ourselves in, when you see me, you see the power of the divine. Call it what you want, call it God, Yahweh, Krishna, call it whatever. You know what? Why don't we call it whatever makes you feel good? Right? So if it's joy that feels good within, that's God. If it's peace within that feels good, that's God. So call it forth into our conscious awareness. And then we are identifying with what we have recognized. I recognize that there is a power in the presence and a love that is everywhere present, is at the very center of all of life. Oh, wait, there's more. I am one with that. Oh, wait a minute, there's more than that. I am that. One of the things I like to say is that God so loved the world that it turned upon itself, clothed itself, and then named itself Maria, named itself Sharon, named itself Susan, named itself Jeff, named itself all of you. Now, put that on and walk as if you are divine, because the truth is, ladies and gentlemen, you are. You cannot be any more spiritual than you are now. So when we talk about the inner and outer spectrum, staying with that second step, the separation comes in when you hear folks say, now I know that none of you say this, but me and some of the friends you work with will say stuff like, well, in my humanness, I did this, that, and the other, as if their humanness is separate from their spiritual selves. And it's not. Right? Because before we are who we are now, we were teenagers. And before that, we were toddlers. And before that, we were baby boy and a baby girl. Before that, we were an embryo. Before that, we were an idea in the mind of God. Before that, we were energy. Nothing's changed. We are still from that essence that comes from the inner spectrum. So we are humanly divine and divinely human. So my challenge for you this week is to walk as if you know that you know that you know that you are the beloved, that you are the divine. How do we practice being the divine, feeling the divine, stepping into that divine life? Is going into the silence, that inner spectrum, because there is no sound without the silence. There is no activity without the stillness. It needs it both. So as we begin to, thank you, Spirit. Thank you. As we begin to let go and surrender all of the things that would keep us from being our divine selves, that's always knocking at the heart. As we surrender all of those things, now we allow ourselves to show up brightly. Surrender for me has two sides. The first side is to surrender everything that doesn't serve me, to surrender everything that no longer is not in harmony with my greatest good, to surrender all the thoughts of doubt and lack and worry and fear and, oh man, self-judgment. Oh my God. That's still one of those voices that keeps going on. You know, who do you think you are, Eugene? Man, shut up. You just go away. Right. And it's all, so to surrender all of that. The flip side of surrender for me is then to surrender to your good. Surrender to your light. Surrender to your brilliance. Surrender to your abundance. Surrender to your perfect health. Surrender to the fact and to the truth that you are perfect. Yeah. So when we surrender to that, man, life becomes a ball. Yes, stuff goes on because it's life, right? But we have the tools to deal with it. It's like, oh, okay. One of the greatest gifts that we have is the gift of choice. So we get to choose how we deal with whatever life, with however life shows up. That person who cuts us off and we want to give them the number one finger, we can go, wait. No, I love you. Bless you. Because what we bless blesses us. Why? Because step 2 also says that I am one, not only with that infinite intelligence, but I am one with everything and everyone else. Even that person that cut us off, even that person who may show up as a racist, even that person who may, even that police officer who may have killed someone, even whatever it is, but I am one with them. There's no separation. No separation. So to conclude what really cannot be concluded, I invite you to really go into the silence as often as you can and feel not only your oneness with the divine, but feel that you are the divine. Feel that you are the divine. Going back to what I said earlier, that God so loved the world that it turned upon itself, clothed itself, and then named itself you. Let's pray. So this is what I know. I know that there is a power, there is a presence, there is a life, there is an essence from which all of life is created, supported, and maintained. I recognize that it is at the very center of all of life, and having no circumference, there isn't anything that exists outside of this infinite presence of God, for truly God is all there is. It is the nature of the infinite intelligence to permeate, to penetrate, and to fill the interspaces of the universe, meaning that the space within the space, between the space, is filled with the vibrancy and the power of the one. It is amazing to me that out of this one intelligence, all of life is established. Out of this one presence, we have birds of different varieties. We have fish of different varieties. We have the sun shining. We have the cells in our skin that feel the heat of the sun. And all of this comes from the one. And so recognizing and acknowledging that God is everywhere present at all times, I know that at all times, God is present right where we are. Right here, right now, God is, we are. And so it is in my awareness of our oneness in God that I speak this word from a united state of consciousness. Declaring, naming, claiming, decreeing, and declaring that we are truly one, that we are God in action. Every word that we speak, that is God in action. Every thought that we think, that is God in action. So I declare that we say yes to being our divine, brilliant illumination of spirit, being our divine selves. So as we go forth today and every other day, that we go forth knowing that we go as love, we walk as light. We are the walking, talking miracle of spirit. Spirit. We are the word of God made flesh. We are the word of God made flesh. We are God's vision fulfilled. And so we surrender everything that is unlike this truth. We surrender all the thoughts of doubt and worry. We let go of all the thoughts of lack and limitation. We let go of all the thoughts of fear. We allow those thoughts to fall away and disappear because they truly have no power here. There is only one power, and that is the power of love. All we need is love. All we are is love. So as we turn the other cheek, meaning and symbolize that we turn into the direction of the one, we know that we are not only guided and directed, but we are supported. We are supported. We are supported to show up and to show out as God incarnate. For this and for so much more than these words can ever convey, I remain forever grateful and thankful. And so it is from this space of gratitude, this place of thanksgiving, that I release my word into the awesome and dynamic activity of love and law. So you see, this is what I know. As this word is released into the law has no other choice. It has no other recourse but to take these words and mold them and shape them, create them, design them, and then return them unto us, not void, not empty, but absolutely and completely fulfilled, pressed down, shaken together, and overflowingly fulfilled. And so fulfilled, we allow it to be accepting that this is done simply because we say so. And so it is, and so it shall be. Amen. Thank you.